Hello, I'm Sharon and this is The Lifelong Learner, and I am going to be watching a film for every country that I visit. First stop, Berlin. The film I chose to watch for Berlin was called When the Road Ended, which is a 2014 German film. The film itself is about an hour in length, but it is all shot in the one location, which is inside a taxi car. The film is basically about the taxi driver who drives around during the night and the various people that he takes where they need to go. I quite like the juxtaposition between the different people and their experiences, and it could be quite funny because you were kind of getting the highs and the lows. You've got people that are super talkative, people that are quiet, people that are going through dramas, and I quite liked kind of seeing that kind of contrast, and it could kind of make me laugh at times. I also really liked that the whole film was inside the taxi car. I think whenever films are shot in one location, when it's done well, it can be really successful. I think for the most part it worked for this film, but I would say that it didn't necessarily hold my attention throughout the entirety of the film, which is a shame, but nevertheless I did thoroughly enjoy it. And I quite like sort of getting that sort of, you're almost like an observer when you're watching the film. You're kind of getting that sort of window into lots of different people's lives, and you're kind of sort of getting insight into their sort of various human experiences. So overall, I give this film a 3.5 stars. Next stop, Prague. The film I chose for Prague is called Alice, and it was directed by a Czech director, and it is an adaptation of Alice in Wonderland, which I love. I just love how much Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland has inspired so many people. I mean, I've been to see Alice in Wonderland ballet, I've been to Alice in Wonderland hip hop show, I've been to various different things like that, and I think that, you know, there's so many films and books and art that has come out of this book that Lewis Carroll wrote. And this film is one that I quite enjoy. It's very sort of low budget, but I almost feel like that creates a sort of artsy kind of feeling to it. And it's a stop motion film with some live action parts as well, and I quite like that combination. And I suppose I'm quite a fan. I do like stop motion that isn't sort of perfect. I like knowing that it's stop motion. Sometimes when you're too aware of something, it can kind of ruin it, but for me, I quite enjoyed that about this film. I was very aware that it was stop motion, and it was quite jilted in the movements, but I do feel like that added to the sort of kind of creepiness and the kind of atmosphere and the overall sort of feeling of the film. I particularly like this adaptation because I don't think that I've seen any other kind of Alice in Wonderland adaptation like this. It also feels like the kind of film that you would maybe see in a museum, you know, the kind of thing that you can just imagine it sort of being projected onto a screen, and it's one of those kind of weird, wacky films that you watch when you're walking around a museum. There's very little dialogue in the film as well, but that just makes you kind of concentrate on the visuals all that more. And there's a real life girl in the film, but there's also like a rabbit that feels sort of very taxidermy-like, and I quite like that sort of combination of different visuals. So overall, whilst this is, you know, felt like a very low budget film, I do think that that added to my joy and love of this film. So I think on the whole, I would give this film a 3.5 stars. The final stop for this part of the journey is Vienna. The film I chose for Vienna is Veras Mantel, and it is a 2017 film about an author who is suffering from agoraphobia. It explores the topic of agoraphobia in a kind of interesting way. I don't think it's immediately obvious that the film's about agoraphobia, so I do think that it was interesting. However, I don't know that it was that successful in its portrayal either, and it felt sort of unsatisfying and confusing at some points. Nevertheless, I like the sort of psychological feel of the film. It's very sort of surreal. You're kept on your toes. You don't always really know what's going on, and I quite like that. And there's sort of tension that builds throughout the film as well. There's also sort of an element of kind of humour for me as well. But yeah, it's quite an eerie sort of film. Even though I didn't love it, I did still enjoy it, and I still would recommend it to other people, and I gave this film a 3 stars. So those are my picks for Berlin, Prague and Vienna, and I will have more videos exploring all the other places that I'm visiting, and I will also be doing this for books too, so keep an eye out on that. Thanks for watching this one, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.